1146, please. $12.06, please. $12.07. $12.10, please. Did you see the last person walk out the door on that video clip?
Yes, I did.
And did you identify who that is?
Yes, it's Mr. John O'Keefe. He's wearing the two-tone gray sweatshirt with the sleeves pulled up towards the elbows.
Is that the same clothing that you found at Good Samaritan Hospital when you went to visit?
Yes, it is.
The baseball hat, did you have an opportunity to look at the hat he was wearing?
Yes, I did.
Is that consistent with the hat that you and the group found on February 3rd, 2010?
Yes, it is.
The pants?
Yes, it is.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you Exhibit 108C. This is already introduced into evidence. When you studied that photo, do you notice anything in Mr. O'Keefe's hand?
Yes, in his right hand, he's holding a short style cocktail glass with black drinking straw protruding from it as it is backdropped on the snow on the hood of the car that's parked outside.
Could we show 108C, please? Ms. Gilman, could you focus the best you can on the drink? Is that the photo you looked at?
Yes, it is.
Can you point out or explain where you see the drinking straw?
Absolutely. Right there, to the right of the red indicator, you could see the straw protruding out of the glass. Mr. O'Keefe is holding in his right hand.
Thank you. You can take that down, Ms. Gilman.
I'm going to allow it.
You can take that down, Ms. Gilman. Thank you. One last matter, Trooper Buchanan. In 2024, did you obtain ring video for that time period in 2024 from Mr. O'Keefe's home?
Yes, I did.
Did you provide that ring video to a person who works for a company by the name of Aperture?
Yes, we did.
And just very basically, do you know what Aperture does?
Yes, I do.
What do they do?
They assist in scientific fashion to reconstruct, test, and evaluate, analyze vehicle-involved crashes and deaths.
Is Aperture part of the Mass State Police team?
They are not.
Are they a private company?
Yes, they are.
May I approach?
Yes.
Handing in the item to you, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a ring video from 2024.
So what location?
Meadows Ave.
Thank you. I'd move this as evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Sergeant Buchnick.
Good afternoon, sir.
I want to talk to you for a second about roles in this case, in this investigation. Would you agree with me that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator as well as the case agent in charge of this case?
He was assigned as the case officer for the case.
In that position, given the fact that it was his assignment, would you agree with me that he had a leadership role insofar as the investigation of the case was concerned?
I wouldn't call it a leadership role. It's more of a facilitator, liaison between the DA's personnel within the office and the state police. He also helps facilitate any missions, outstanding tasks that need to be completed.
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
He obviously had a supervisor, correct?
He did, yes, that would be myself.
That would be you.
Yes.
Every case has some lead trooper in your unit, correct? Every case is assigned to someone to sort of be in charge and lead the charge of the investigation. Is that right?
Every case has a case officer that manages the investigation.
Right. And managing the investigation doesn't mean just, sort of typing up schedules. It means actually managing the investigation, like deciding what search warrants are going to be written in certain circumstances. That's one example, correct?
They're responsible for writing and authoring those search warrants. Sometimes the recommendation, suggestion, or leadership comes from the supervisors or the DA staff where their experience might dictate otherwise.
And sometimes it comes from the lead case agent himself or herself, correct?
At times, yes.
Every team, even back when you were in the military, you were on many, many teams in the Marine Corps, correct?
I'm sorry, you were speaking, facing away from me. I couldn't hear you.
Every team, including back in the time you were in the military, back in the time you were in the Marine Corps, every team has multiple individuals involved in that team, correct? That's the whole point of a team, multiple people, correct?
I would agree with you that a team consists of more than one person. Yes.
And there has to be some sort of echelon of leadership on that team, correct? Everybody's not just an equal, co-equal, correct?
We might have different duties, responsibilities, but some teams have equal rank. Yeah.
But there's going to be a team leader, right? That's a military phrase, team leader.
Yes, there is a team leader in the Marine Corps, in the rifle platoon, but not every team has a leader.
Did the team in this case, in this investigation, have a leader? Someone who was assigned as the lead case agent. Not just another officer, not just another detective, but the lead case agent.
The case officer for the investigation was Michael Proctor.
But you don't want to say lead case agent or case officer, correct?
I refer to that billet as case officer.
Your responsibility as the supervisor over this particular case officer or any other case officer that you might have, or any other trooper that you might have under your supervision, your responsibility in no small part is to supervise the individuals under your command to ensure that the case is adequately investigated. It's properly investigated. That's part of your role as a supervisor, correct?
It is one of my many responsibilities, yes.
It's partly because you have more experience, I'm guessing, than the people under your charge. Is that right?
Certainly in my position, but there are many instances where a sergeant might have less experience than a well-seasoned trooper that's been in the office for 15 to 20 years. So
fair enough. Fair enough. That may be the case, but under ordinary circumstances, you earn your way into a supervisory role in the Massachusetts State Police through both not just time, but time and experience, correct?
We take an exam and then get promoted based on the exam.
Part of the responsibility that you have as a supervisor is to make sure that the case is properly investigated, and that may include making sure you have the right suspects, right? the array of suspects that may exist, you want to make sure, and you supervise to make sure that that array of suspects is appropriate and proper, correct?
In every investigation, we follow the evidence, we follow the statements made, provided by eyewitnesses, witnesses in the case. Sometimes the defendants or suspects provide statements to us. At many instances, those could be contradictory statements. We follow the evidence in every investigation, and that evidence determines who the suspect, person of interest, or ultimately the defendant is.
And you want to make sure that you gather, or that your subordinates gather that evidence in an appropriate and objective way. It's obviously the foundation of a good investigation, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Maybe. You obviously, as a supervisor, want to make sure, you talked about following the evidence, you want to make sure that that evidence is gathered in a way that is adequate, in a way that is objective, that in a way that is unbiased, so that you can gather the evidence that will lead you to the right folks, right? To the right suspects.
We always want to gather as much evidence as possible. We conduct that gathering in the most appropriate ways possible. Sometimes there are tough decisions that have to be made where we have to either decide whether we're collecting evidence A or evidence B, and those decisions have to be made on the spot. At times it's a time-sensitive matter. At times it's a decision made by a group putting their heads together and deciding on that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not really.
That's the most
Let's try it again.
accurate explanation.
Okay, you done?
I am.
Okay, let's try that again. You want to make sure that the evidence, as a supervisor, supervising your subordinates, you want to make sure that the evidence is gathered in an appropriate way, in an objective way, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You're also doing everything you can as a supervisor and someone with the experience to make sure that the highest levels of integrity and those demands are met in any investigation that you work on.
If there was a question of integrity, those individuals would not be part of an investigation.
That includes knowing, obviously, what your subordinates are doing.
During the conduct of the investigation, during the process of us investigating a crime, yes, we know what is going on, because every bit of information that comes in needs to be shared, and we need to make sure the whole team is aware of all the evidence and information that is available to us at the time.
You want to make sure that, I'm going to use a colloquial phrase, you keep tabs on those who are reporting to you, correct? What are they doing? What are they engaged in? When are they coming and going? Who are they interviewing? Things of that nature. Basic investigative things, correct?
For the most part, you can't track every single person all the time, but this is a very serious line of work. A lot depends on it. We speak for those that can no longer speak for themselves. So we do our best to conduct every investigation with integrity, honor, and get to the truth.
If you don't properly supervise, and I'm talking about your role now as a supervisor, if you don't properly engage in that supervision, it obviously increases chances for mistakes. It increases chances for bias to seep in. It increases chances that something could affect the adequacy of the investigation, correct?
That's a lot there. Can you repeat that, please? Maybe one section at a time?
Sure. If you don't properly supervise your subordinates in an investigation, failing to properly supervise them could increase the chances that mistakes are made. Isn't that right? That's why you
Yes,
supervise.
that is one possibility. Yes.
Okay. Let's break it down. It also increases chances that there could be inherent biases that are seeping into the case that you want to make sure doesn't happen, correct?
I believe that human beings all have biases, but during the investigation, those biases do not affect, especially in this case, they did not affect any outcome of the investigation.
So I wasn't even talking about this case. I was talking about cases in general and your supervisory role in general. Your job as a supervisor is to seek out and make sure that there are no biases in an investigation, correct?
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that any investigation, as a supervisor, any investigation that is under your charge, under your supervision, is done adequately and professionally. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
And There's a chain of command for that, right? Meaning someone under your charge needs to report up the chain of command to you, and you have supervisors to whom you report, correct?
Yes, it's a paramilitary structure, and it is in order for the colonel to keep command and control over the entire agency of 2,000 plus people, it is absolutely necessary for there be a reporting up and down within the ranks of the Massachusetts State Police.
And you have, by the way, what's your chain of command? Who did you report to back in 2022?
I directly reported to Detective Lieutenant Tully.
Especially in a case, you mentioned this case a second ago, especially in a case like this, a homicide investigation, especially in a homicide investigation involving a police officer, you have to maintain your knowledge, an intimate knowledge of those under your command, under your charge, to ensure that what they're doing fits what you believe to be the proper protocol. In other words, you're not just going to let people loose. You're going to watch what they're doing and actually supervise them, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are professionals, and we conduct each and every investigation with that in mind and with the
that's what-
integrity that is necessary.
You just used the word I was about to use. That ensures the adequacy of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
To use your word, that ensures the integrity of the investigation. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
As you sit here today, do you believe that this investigation, now I'm going to turn to this investigation, was conducted with professionalism, with competence?
There's no right answer to this
at the
question.
highest level of integrity.
There's no right answer to this question. You're screwed no matter what you
This
say.
investigation was conducted professionally, with integrity, and all the evidence collected, all the statements collected, pointed in one direction. There was no bias influence on the evidence, on the information that was collected, or which direction the investigation pointed naturally.
Former Trooper Michael Proctor was the person who was the assigned case agent, the lead case agent in this particular investigation, correct?
Michael Proctor was the case officer for this investigation.
He was assigned, ultimately, to use another phrase, as the lead investigator, wasn't he?
I'm not going to agree with you.
Is there a reason that you want to try to distance yourself from naming Michael Proctor as the lead investigator?
I bet there are
Is there
several
some
reasons.
I am not trying to distance myself. All I'm saying is the term that I use is the case officer. We're simply case managers. There's no leading investigation in any direction.
So, in your mind, well, let me ask you this. He's a case officer, another word for that, synonym would be an investigator, right? He's a detective, an investigator, correct?
He is a detective, yes.
And he was the one who was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police because of his on-call status that night, or that morning, January 29, 2022, he was assigned to the case, correct?
Michael,
Yes or no? Assigned to the case. That's all I'm asking.
well, you said a lot before that,
No,
so
I didn't. I said he was assigned to the case. What I said before that was January 29th, 2022. He was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police as the case officer for this case. Correct?
Yes.
no.
Who was?
He wasn't?
He was assigned to be on call a month prior. Just because he was on call, he was assigned the case as a result. He was not assigned the case right there and then, because his assignment began much earlier in the day.
Okay.
We can do this all day, I suppose. He was on call.
He
on
was.
January 29th, correct?
He was.
Because he was on call, any case that happened to come in would be assigned to whom?
To the on-call trooper that's on the schedule.
Which was whom?
It was Michael Proctor.
So the case was assigned to him. Yeah.
Let me just ask you this. Do you believe that Michael Proctor, his involvement in this case, taints the investigation?
There's no answer to this question either.
Tainted the investigation?
No.
Not at all.
The investigation was done with honor, integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction only.
Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor.
Is that a question? I'm sorry.
Sure is. Everything I say is a question. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant? Okay.
Sustain to the comment. Go ahead and ask it again, Mr.
I'll ask it
Jackson.
again. You said honor and integrity. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
The investigation was conducted with honor and integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction and one direction only.
So, Sergeant Buchanan, you don't want to answer my question. Correct?
I will answer your question, absolutely.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
Okay.
You do know that he
Okay.
touched or had input in nearly every part of this case, obviously, as the case officer, correct?
He managed the case.
So he had some input or had some connection to nearly every part of the case, be it the physical evidence, the search warrants, the interviews, things of that nature.
He was one of the involved with collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and signing affidavits for the search warrants.
He didn't take a minor role in this case. He had a major role in this case. Would you at least agree with that?
This is where Jackson's style is much more warranted. See, there's a lot more juice to squeeze out of this witness than for some of the earlier witnesses. His style was inappropriate for earlier witnesses. There's a lot of juice that's worth the squeeze when it comes to this guy and Proctor. So let's go. I'm here for the squeezing. Let's squeeze it some more, baby. Let's go.
That.
He had a role that was more significant than others. A major role would, to me, suggest that he had 51% or more. And with a team of the size that we had working on this case, he did not have a major role.
So you believe, as you sit here today, your testimony is Michael Proctor did not have.
I like that. The case officer doesn't have a major role. Okay. That's interesting. The case officer doesn't have a major role. Okay, that's like saying that Brennan or Lally doesn't have a major role. Okay.
a major role in this investigation.
All right, guys, we're going to be here for a hot minute. We're going to be here for a hot minute, so get your popcorn. You know, maybe get in a nice chair, get yourself a blanket, put on a spinny fan. We're gonna be here for a while. You guys should get pretty comfortable. This is going to be a lot. This is going to be a hot minute.
Investigation of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, because he didn't have 51% of something. That's your testimony?
That's the way I understand it, yes.
Okay. You're aware of the search warrants that were drafted, affidavits that were attendant to those search warrants in this case, correct?
Am I aware of affidavits drafted in
Search warrants and
support-
affidavits,
in support of the search warrants?
correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. You're also aware that there was a good amount of physical evidence that was handled in this case? Recovered, touched, booked, assigned or booked into the lab, things of that nature?
I am aware of the evidence involved in this case, yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sergeant Buchanan, I've handed you a binder, and And it's tabbed just for your convenience, so I don't have to walk back and forth. With
Thank
the
you,
court's
sir.
permission,
Yes.
can you open tab 1? I'm not going to ask you to read the entire search warrant, but is that a search warrant that ends in 07?
Yes, it is.
And it's for, generally, Verizon records for Miss Reed's cell phone.
No, I would not agree with you, sir.
What is that search warrant for?
It's for Verizon records for a VIN number, which looks like a vehicle.
Is that
Verizon search records for a VIN? What?
the vehicle, the SUV, the Lexus SUV in this case?
I do not know for sure because it doesn't have that identifier here, and I don't know the VIN number off the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. Who's the affiant?
It's Proctor. Of course it is. It's Proctor. You know it's Proctor. We know it's Proctor. Just say Proctor. OnStar? Okay, that makes more sense then. Fair enough.
Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 2? Is that a search warrant ending in the number 14?
Give me 1 second.
I'm sorry,
I don't want to
13.
ruin your presentation here.
Search warrant ending in 13. I misspoke.
Okay.
Is that a search warrant for, generally speaking, Karen Reed's cell phone?
The quality of this photocopy is so poor, I cannot make out exactly what it's for, but there is an overlay of print. I can read what is presented to me, if that's what you want me to do. I do not know if this is an authentic copy of a search warrant.
Let's just look at the
Sure.
affidavit. Can you tell me who the affiant is?
You don't know if it's an authentic copy of a search warrant. Sure, uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's an authentic copy of a search warrant, sir. It's Proctor. I mean, I can see the page from here. The text looks pretty crisp to me. Looks pretty crisp in my mind. But okay.
On this document, the affiant is Michael Proctor.
Of course it is.
Can you turn to tab? By the way, just staying with that for a second, you said you don't recognize it. Do you recognize it as being attendant to this case?
The application or the affidavit?
The search warrant. Well,
Again,
they go together.
The application or the together?
They go together.
I understand that, but I'm asking which document you want me to.
The document in total. In other words, it's not a search warrant dealing with a different case. It's dealing with Ms. Reed's case, correct?
Of course, yeah, it is. This is not. He's not trying to trick you.
Again, I cannot say from the search warrant because of the quality of it. The addendum A appears to be with this case.
Okay. Have you
And
ever
the
seen
F-
it before?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever seen it before, this search warrant?
I haven't read the whole thing, so I can't testify to that.
So this could be a search warrant that you never even saw?
Based on what you're presenting to me, never having seen or not having read all the details of it, I cannot say whether I've seen it before or not.
So you're not sure that Michael Proctor didn't just do the search warrant without your knowledge? As you sit here.
I don't know if this is truly Michael Proctor's product.
Think that might be a forgery? His
I'm
name?
sorry?
You think that might be a forgery at the end of that affidavit?
Well, for one, it's not signed, so I don't know who produced this. What I'm saying to you is I don't know who produced this. The quality of the first document,
Oh my God.
the narrative, I don't know who produced it. If you show me a search warrant application,
We're going to be here forever. We're going to be here forever. And incidentally, by the way, I don't think any of this is working for the witness. As AJ, I don't even necessarily care because his answers are so evasive. His answers are so evasive. I can't be bothered to care. These are why these questions are great. These questions are great because I actually don't care what the answer is. There is no way you can answer this question in a way that doesn't make me happy. You can say that this is Proctor's words. You can fight me. You can say everything was done completely on board, or you can say that Proctor's full of shit. Any answer is great. All the answers are great. Every single answer is wonderful. It's the best position you could possibly be in as a lawyer. I literally don't care what answer you give me. All the answers are equally good. You just get to have fun. You just get to have fun. It's a good day at the office, man. Just pick your favorite answer. They're all equally good. It's fine.
With an affidavit from
As Sean might say, suffer.
court with a stamp, the time stamp and the stamp water seal from court, I will tell you that that's what it appears to be. What you've shown me here, I don't know what this is.
Otherwise, looking at that document, seeing the affidavit, seeing the addendum, seeing Michael Proctor's name on it, no clue whether or not that's a warrant that's attendant to this case that Michael Proctor drafted and submitted. You have no clue.
I can't take you at your word.
I'm
Really?
not asking you to take me at my word, sir. I'm not testifying. I'm asking you to take the document at his word. Do you recognize it or not? If you don't, you don't.
I do not know.
Okay, let's turn to tab 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that appear to be a search warrant ending in the number 14?
Hey, I'll give you a clue, witness. The answer is the same as it was last time. I know
yes, it is.
I know that.
And does that appear to generally be associated with Ring camera footage at One Meadows? Or can you not tell that?
Let me give you let me help you.
has
The answer is
a-
Michael Proctor.
An email address, an associated MAC address, so yes, that's what it appears to be.
Okay, can you tell me who the affiant is?
You want to take a guess? Who do you think it could be? So many possible options.
Again, this is not a signed search warrant. This is just an affidavit.
Whose name is at the bottom of it?
The name at the bottom printed is Michael Proctor.
Can you turn to tab 4?
Let me give you a clue. The answer to this will also be Michael Proctor. I like this game. I like this game. I already know the answers to the questions. I already know the question and I already know the answer. I can see the future. Here's the question. Is this a search warrant related to this case? Who is it signed by? Michael Proctor. I already know the answers. It's great.
Again, this search warrant is not signed, but I would say this isn't an actual search warrant, but it seems like at the bottom it says Trooper Michael Proctor.
If you turn to tab 7, please.
The answer is Michael Proctor. I know the answer. Can I
Does that
answer
appear
the
to be a
question?
report authored by Nicholas Garino?
It does.
Does that deal with John O'Keefe's cell phone?
It does. I know the answer is yes. I'm ready to put me in, Coach. I know the answers.
It's a report written by Nicholas Garino referencing Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone, yes.
And it indicates that Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone was seized by a particular trooper?
That's what the report indicates, yes.
Who's the trooper?
In this report, it says that
It's Michael Proctor.
Trooper Proctor.
What are
secured
the
cell phone.
what are the
Turn
odds?
to tab 8. if you don't
Michael
mind.
Proctor. But he's not the lead, guys. He's not the lead.
Do you see a similar report by Trooper Garino?
Yes.
And do you see reference to Karen, pardon me, Karen Reed's cell phone having been seized?
To paraphrase Fight Club, his name is Michael Proctor. His name is Michael Proctor. His name is Michael Proctor.
Yes.
And that was seized by Trooper Proctor also, correct?
Yeah, him and I were there together.
His name is in the report, though.
Yes, his name is in the report.
Your name is not in the report, is it?
I'll have to check. Give me a second, please. My initials are in the report.
Turn to tab 9. Do you see a report by you
I do.
indicating early spring 2022? There was a CPD video requested by somebody, correct?
Yes,
Who did you indicate requested that CPD video?
the case officer, Trooper Proctor.
And you went and actually, in this instance, you actually went and got the video and delivered it to him, correct? At his request.
Yes, as the case officer, I would, yeah.
Because as the case officer, he's entitled to ask for things, have them delivered, correct?
Anybody's entitled to ask for things, absolutely. We are pursuing justice. We're looking for any and all possible evidence.
I'm sure you are. As the case officer, he's entitled to ask for things to be delivered to him,
Yes, yes.
even by his supervisor.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't mind turning to tab 10, please.
Is the answer Michael Proctor by any chance?
Do you recognize that report?
I'm sorry, I was still turning. It's the same report.
Same report, different paragraph, also talking about, or the different sentence, talking about a July 2023 CPD or Canton Police Department video that was also requested, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Sure. That particular part of the report, where I'm directing your attention to July of 2023, there was a Canton Police Department video requested by someone, correct?
Yes,
Who was that requested by?
Trooper Proctor.
And
Look
who
at me,
delivered it to Trooper
look at me,
Proctor?
Chad. I'm
I
a
do.
goddamn genius.
Turn to
I know
tab
the answer
11,
every
please.
time. The answer is Michael
You see a
Proctor
document
again.
referencing the analysis of Canton Town library videos.
I don't know what the question is, but I know what the answer is.
I do.
And who is it that's listed as having received and reviewed and analyzed the town library videos?
Give me just 1 second. I have to read the report.
I know who it is. I know the answer. My genius is unrivaled. Anytime. Anytime, boss. I got there 20 seconds ago. Anytime you want to get the answer, it'll be fine. Now it's 30 seconds. It's still the same answer. Say it. Say it. Say it.
It was Trooper Proctor that
There you go.
analyzed the video and wrote up the timeline.
Thank you. Sergeant, if you'll turn to tab 12.
Proctor. Michael.
Do you recognize that as being a November 2023 report?
Yes, it's report number 83.
And who authored that report?
This report is authored by Trooper Michael Proctor.
Does that indicate, and I'm not going to ask you to go through the entirety of the report, but if you scan that report, does that indicate certain items of evidence that Trooper Proctor claimed to have recovered on his own? Pieces of plastic, small black plastic, clear plastic, fragment of glass on February 11th, 2022. 3 pieces of clear plastic on February 11th, 2022. clear and red plastic pieces on February 18th, 2022. Is all that referenced in there?
Those items are documented in this report as were collected, yes.
And those are all documented having been collected by Trooper Proctor himself, correct?
Yes, yes, they were.
And if you'll turn to tab 13.
Now, I think the answer to this one's going to be different. I think the answer to this one is going to be El Jefe, Senor
This is an evidence submission
Miguel
form, correct?
Proctoro.
I'm sorry, 13?
Tab 13, yes, sir.
All right. Yes, it's a copy of an evidence submission form from March 14th, 2022.
And that indicates submission of certain items of physical evidence from Massachusetts State Police custody to the crime lab, correct?
I would say so, based on this copy's information on there. Yes, I would say so.
And who's the person who submitted the items that I'll ask you about?
It is Trooper Michael Proctor.
Whoa.
And those items include clothing, is that right? We don't have to go through them line by line, but generally, you see clothing items mentioned on there?
The first line is a clothing item, yes.
That includes a lot of what we saw today, Sergeant Buchanan, the shirt, the orange shirt, the sweatshirt, blue jeans, belt, correct?
Blue jeans, belt. What was the other thing that you listed?
Shirts.
There was a shirt, yes.
It also lists certain items of plastic, certain items of glass, is that right?
I'm getting an
Some
M
of those
name.
items are listed, yes.
I'm getting an M name.
And it even mentions the straw that you talked to Mr. Brennan about, correct?
Is it Miles? I'm getting an M name.
Yes, the straw is mentioned and numbered.
And all of those items were submitted on March 14th, 2022.
Manuel? Is it
That's what the form indicates.
is it Matt?
And all of those items were submitted by Michael Proctor.
Oh no,
from
it was
his
Michael
custody and
again.
control
Oh,
to the crime lab,
okay.
correct?
Wow. All right. So what a surprise.
That's who signed the form.
So of the things that, according to the form at least, and your experience with forms of this nature, it was Michael Proctor who possessed and controlled those items before they were turned over to the to the crime lab, correct?
That would be accurate, yes.
So he would have maintained all of it, is that right? At least at some point?
They would have been in his custody as he's transporting them for processing at the lab, of course.
And then after he maintained control of it, eventually he turned it over and submitted those items, correct?
If the form is accurate, then yes, that's absolutely right.
So we've just gone through a few things. What you and I have just gone through is not nearly everything that Michael Proctor was involved with in terms of this investigation, correct? We didn't talk about witness interviews, right?
We did not talk about witness interviews,
So
no.
there's a lot more that Michael Proctor on a day-to-day basis as the case officer was involved in addition to what you and I just talked about, right?
Yes, there was many more things he was involved in. As I mentioned, that was just report 83. There's 100+ reports in this case that were written. There's a lot of evidence that was collected and processed. So he had a part in the investigation as the case officer managing the tasks. But there's a lot of people involved in this investigation.
So he touched or authored or reviewed or controlled at least every bit of what you and I have talked about this morning, all these items that we've just talked about, correct?
He is referenced or
Referenced.
his name appears
Tangential,
on
guys.
most of these documents. yes.
Tangential.
If
As a matter of
not all-
fact,
if not all.
Of the
If
ones
not.
that we just went through, he's not just referenced, he's the author of every single one of them, correct?
No. Nicholas Garino wrote some of these reports.
Sorry, the author of the search warrant. I asked you to look at Nicholas Garino's report to reference the search warrant that Nicholas Garino referenced in his report, and Michael Proctor was the author of that search warrant, correct?
Again, I hate to do this to you, but
Oh, I don't think you do.
some of these search warrants could not be authenticated. I don't know what these documents were. I didn't
They
read
can't
them.
be
So
authenticated.
I can't tell
They're
you
not
that
authentic.
he was the author. Like, what you presented,
Wow.
I can't speak to.
You just made my point. Even as the supervisor, you don't know everything that Michael Proctor was doing, do you?
No, it's impossible to know everything somebody was doing.
Got it. Especially
See,
the case
you don't care what
officer
the
on
answer
case,
is. It's great
as
every
busy as
single
he was.
time.
Right?
I'm sorry?
Especially the case officer on this case, as busy as he was, Michael Proctor. Right?
He was keeping us and his supervisors abreast of what was
Abreast.
happening, the next step, the search warrants he was writing, the evidence that was being collected, the interviews that are being conducted, court dates and motions and stuff like that.
So he would do the work and then keep you, the word you just used, keep you abreast of that work.
Right, unless I was involved with the investigation myself. We did a ton of interviews together, as I authored some of these reports as well. I said there was 100+ reports.
Is that vodka in that bottle? I hope
Sir,
so.
you were notified on January 29th, 2022, that a Boston police officer was found gravely injured in front of 34 Fairview in the lawn, in the yard, correct?
No, that is not correct.
What were you notified of?
When the notification came in, it was that there was a male party found in the snowbank.
At some point, you learned that male party was John O'Keefe, a police officer, correct?
At some point, we did learn that he was a Boston police officer.
Matter of fact, you learned that morning. May not have been the first notification, but certainly early that morning, you knew that John O'Keefe was a Boston police officer.
At some point, we learned. I don't.
Well, I don't know that for sure. There's no proof that he was a police officer. I don't know that. That hasn't been authenticated. I haven't seen his paperwork. I don't know if he's a police officer or not. I have no idea.
remember exactly when, if it was morning, just after 12. I don't know when, but we did learn that he was a Boston police officer.
And I'm not asking about what Trooper Proctor learned, but what you learned. You learned that he was a Boston police officer, correct?
At some point, I learned that he was a Boston police officer, yes.
And on January 29th, did you ever respond to 34 Fairview Road at any time?
On January 29th, 2022, at no point in time did I or Michael Proctor, who was with me the whole time, ever respond to 34 Fairview Road.
So the answer to my question, very simply, is no, right?
That's correct.
You just answered this question as well, but I want to make sure we're absolutely clear. Your Honor, may I approach? I don't want that
Okay.
binder to be in the...
Yeah. Just go ahead and clear that out there.
At no point on January 29th, 2022, did Michael Proctor respond to 34 Fairview either, did he?
No, he did not.
You already indicated and you described in some detail that Massachusetts State Police took over the investigation from Canton Police Department around 8 or 9 a.m., correct? Following certain protocols.
Yes, at some point in the morning, once it was determined that Mr. O'Keefe was gravely injured and was being transported to the hospital with no signs of life, and we were advised that he had a estimated 10% of survival rate, we engaged our services and responded to Canton Police to begin the investigation.
So the answer to that question is yes, correct?
Yes.
You'll often work with a local police agency, even though a police department, even though Massachusetts State Police may have statutory jurisdiction over the case because it's a homicide, right?
Yes, part of our mission is to aid and assist local police departments when they request it. In this specific situation, As I stated earlier, the DA's office has exclusive jurisdiction over death investigations, and our office has that responsibility of investigating those cases. But we work very well with local departments.
So the answer to that question is yes. Correct?
Yes.
If you can answer
Yeah.
my question yes or no, this will go a lot faster. In this case, even though you oftentimes work with local law enforcement agencies, it was determined that you would not continue working with Canton PD because of a conflict or the perception of a potential conflict of interest, correct?
To alleviate any perception, not that one existed, the Canton Police Department recused themselves from being involved in the interview portion of the investigation.
And that's in no small part because the lawn on which Mr. O'Keefe was found belongs to to Brian Albert, and Kevin Albert, Brian Albert's brother, worked as a detective at Canton Police Department, correct?
That was my understanding why they chose to take those steps.
Your first documented action in this case was to call the medical examiner's office. First documented action. Not the first thing you did, but the first thing that you documented that you did was to call the medical examiner's office at about 10:41 a.m., correct?
In what respect are you saying first documented action?
There's a report where we can look at the earliest thing that you did, and it's actually written down and documented. You know what I mean by documented? Written on a piece of paper.
In that respect of documentation, I would have to look into it. I believe there was something probably before that, since there was a documentation of us getting notified of the incident.
At 10:41, let me just ask it a little bit more straightforward if I can. Just get to the point. At 10:41 a.m., you called the medical examiner's office to inform them that Mr. O'Keefe, quote, was struck in the face with a cocktail glass, or at least appeared to be, correct?
That is in part what I advised the medical examiner's office, where they are responsible for the medical portion of.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach briefly?
Okay?
Oh, we're having fun. We're having fun, guys. We're having fun. Num 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 num. This is the good stuff. Yeah, this is the best as AJ, because it's like you don't care what any of the answers are. This is the greatest thing ever. He gives you what you want. You're happy. He fights you. You're happy. Everything's wonderful. Everything is awesome. You can't give me a bad answer. You either just tell me the truth or you look like an evasive asshole. It's fantastic. AJ's style is going to go over much better here. And then we can beat him up to death a little bit. It's fun. It's good times. Spinny fan is spinning. Spinny fan is happy. Me and Spinny fan are in it together. Good times. Don't forget to hit the like button on the stream, by the way. And tonight we will be talking to Turtle Boy, Aiden Kearney himself, about his life's times, channels, stuff.
All right, so Sergeant, I'm going to ask you to do your best to answer the question that's asked.
Yes, Your Honor.
Uh-huh.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
You can have all the moments, AJ. You've earned it.
Did you contact the medical examiner's office in the morning of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And did you state to them that there was a possibility that the decedent,
That is the face of a sad, sad man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your sadness.
John O'Keefe, was struck in the face with a cocktail glass?
I don't recall my words exactly, but that sounds accurate to what I might have said.
At least your initial investigation during those early morning hours, or those critical hours, led you to believe at least that there was a possibility that there was a physical altercation, correct?
Yes.
What steps did you take at that moment to determine whether or not anybody in the house may have been involved in that physical altercation that you thought was a possibility?
That's a compound question. I have to answer it separately.
Answer it however you want to. It's an open-ended question, which is unlike me. What steps did you take to, at that moment, to determine whether or not anybody in the house could have been involved in that possible physical altercation that you just described?
We interviewed the homeowner and 2 witnesses that were in that house.
You never went into the house, did you? On
I
January 29th, at least.
I personally did not go in the house.
You did not secure that house or remove the occupants, did you?
Which day?
January 29th. I'm talking about the morning of January 29th.
I did not know.
You did not secure the yard as a crime scene, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't conduct any search of that house.
No, I did not.
You didn't take any photographs of the interior of that house.
I did not.
You didn't ask a forensic criminalist to join you and process the house, correct?
That is correct.
You didn't set up a crime scene log to determine who is coming in and going
Who-
out of
who has
a potential
logs?
crime scene.
They haven't invented log technology
not.
over there yet.
No one actually documented the crime scene by taking contextual photographs and then close-up photographs, etc., during those early morning hours, correct?
I cannot speak to that. I was not there.
You would
So the answer
presumably
is
know.
You didn't do that. And you didn't cause that to be done.
I did not do that.
Crime scene services section, what is that?
It's a unit, specialized unit on the state police. They are specially trained with documentation, photographs, video, latent fingerprints, foot and tire impressions, footwear and tire impressions. They assist other investigators in documenting and processing scenes.
Did you contact CSSS to process the house or the yard or the area adjacent to the yard?
Which house, sir?
34
Really?
Fairview, Sergeant Buchanan. Do you think I
Really?
was talking about a different house?
Yes, I did.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's
Okay.
stick with 34 Fairview, where John O'Keefe's body was found. Did you call CSSS out to the scene to process that house?
I did not contact crime scene services on January 29th to the area of 34 Fairview Road to the lawn where John O'Keefe's body was found.
You mentioned that you conducted interviews that day, correct?
That's correct.
Where were those interviews conducted?
The first interview was conducted at Canton Police Department. The second, third, and fourth were conducted at a residence in Canton. The
What was the
fifth,
I'm sorry, what was the first interview at Canton Police Department that morning?
Sergeant Good.
So other than Sergeant Good, I'm talking about civilian witnesses. You mentioned 3 civilian witnesses. Where were those 3 witnesses interviewed?
At a residence in Canton.
But not at 34 Fairview, just to be clear.
They were not at 34 Fairview, no.
They had been at 34 Fairview, though, hadn't they? All 3 of them.
Yes, they had.
As a matter of fact, Michael Proctor spoke to one, at least one of them, while she was at 34 Fairview, correct?
I don't know.
Really?
With Michael Proctor when he spoke to Jennifer McCabe?
Which time, sir?
The first time he called her to set up the interview that morning on January 29th. You
I
won't-
don't know where Jennifer McCabe was. I can't testify to that. I have no
Okay,
idea.
so if that call was made, if she talked about that call being made, that was made by Michael Proctor, not by, outside of your presence.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. If there was a call made to Jennifer McCabe by Michael Proctor that morning, that was outside your presence.
Not necessarily. I just did not know where she was.
So the only three people you interviewed were Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe, and Brian Albert, correct?
Not correct.
Who else?
The defendant.
Other than Miss Reed, and before you got to Miss Reed, because you didn't get to Miss Reed till 3:34, correct? In the afternoon.
In the afternoon. I don't know exactly what time we began the conversation.
I'm talking about in the morning, when you were trying to figure out what was going on. You interviewed three people,
Yes, we did.
three civilians.
At one point, we interviewed 3 civilians, the homeowner at 34 Fairview Road, and 2 witnesses that were with Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant the night prior, and then one of the witnesses that was with the defendant when Mr. O'Keefe was discovered.
And these are individuals that you made the assessment had either been with or shortly been with at the time or shortly before he was last seen alive, correct?
Based on the information that we had at that time, one of the individuals was with him right before he was seen alive, and the other
Right
2,
before he was last seen alive.
one of the individuals was with him right before he was last seen alive, and 2 of the individuals saw the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe together.
And those same 2 individuals were also with Mr. O'Keefe just minutes before he was last seen alive. The Waterfall, correct?
All 3 of the individuals were with Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant at Waterfall, yes.
And all 3 of the individuals were also at 34 Fairview when Mr. O'Keefe arrived. You had that information, didn't you?
We did not have information of Mr. O'Keefe arriving at the house. He was dropped off on the lawn.
And all 3 people, all 3, were either named McCabe or Albert. Those are the 3 people that you had information from, correct?
Which information? We had information for a lot of different sources at that point in time.
I'm talking about the first 3 interviews that you did, the first 3 civilian interviews you did that morning. Still on the same thing. You mentioned
Right.
talking to 3 people at a residence in Canton. Brian Albert, Jim McCabe, Matt McCabe. All 3 were at 34 Fairview when they indicated John O'Keefe arrived in an SUV. They all told you that, right?
They were inside the home when the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe arrived in the SUV.
These are the very people that would have a motive to lie if they were somehow involved, right?
Can you answer that, Sergeant?
No, Your Honor.
You're a professional investigator, correct?
That's correct.
Homicide investigator, right?
That's correct.
Many years of experience, right? Is that yes?
I don't know what many means to you,
No,
but
of course not. Let me, how many years of experience do you have?
in homicide,
Correct.
10 next week.
Okay. Does that sound like many?
I didn't answer the first time because I don't know what you would think many is.
Right. Suspects ever lied to you?
Yes.
Suspects lie to you all the time, don't they?
All the time is not accurate. They lie about certain things to create an alibi for themselves and state contradicting facts or fabricated stories.
And if someone
all the
has
time would mean that they're constantly lying about everything.
Do you understand the colloquialism all the time?
I
Suspects.
do not know the term colloquialism.
Really?
Okay, let's try it a different way. If these three individuals were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, or knew others who were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, who they were close to, they would have a motive to lie about that, correct?
Objection.
He doesn't know the term colloquialism. To paraphrase the West Wing, I can't even do it. Damn it, the joke doesn't work. Onomatoponically, it sounds like bullshit. I fucked up the joke. Never mind.
But you took these three individuals just at their word, based on those first three interviews, correct?
No, not correct.
You didn't go in the house. You didn't search the house. We've already talked about that, right?
I did not go into 34 Fairview. No, I did not.
You didn't ask them to come with you down to the station, correct?
That's correct. I did not ask them to come to the station.
As a matter of fact, when you went to interview Jennifer McCabe at her home, Brian Albert happened to be there, correct?
He was there, and I was able to conduct the interview at the house with Brian Albert, yes.
Did you find that odd?
Absolutely not.
Totally normal for you to conduct a formal interview in a homicide case and have an extra person show up at the house just to be there?
Absolutely. Cooperating witnesses always try and be assisting, so cooperating witnesses would assist us.
You just used the word always. You didn't know what all the time means.
Nice.
They always.
I caught that too. I was wondering if Jackson was going to catch it. I caught it in my own head when he said always. I'm like, oh, now you know what always is? And Jackson literally asked the question. Oh, now you know what always means? So points to Jackson. We're starting to think alike. This is very scary on a number of levels.
Trying to be assistant.
Well, they're cooperating. It's in the nature.
They always try to help you out.
Always be cooperating. Always
Maybe I
be
misspoke.
cooperating.
They are cooperating witnesses. So always is such a finite, definitive statement. I apologize.
It is a little
for using
definitive.
it.
That's true.
And if an investigator were keeping an open mind, right, open to all possibilities at the beginning of the investigation, someone that you now are calling a cooperating witness might well be a suspect who's lying, correct?
Yes.
That's
there's
a possibility.
That is a possibility, yes.
Keep going, Jackson. Keep going. I want more beatings. I need more beatings.
have just
Don't
one
give
guy.
up. You better have more questions. You better have another day worth of questions. Don't give up this cross. I need more beatings. I demand more beatings.
I want to shift gears for a second, Sergeant Buchanan, and ask you about some of the physical evidence in the case. You and Mr. Proctor collected the gray sweatshirt and the orange T-shirt that we saw entered into evidence today, correct?
That's correct.
You talked about finding that evidence at Good Samaritan Hospital, is that right?
That is where it was seized from, yes.
You described it as being on the floor, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Where on the floor was it when you first saw it? Was it on the hospital floor, not the ambulance floor, correct?
When I first saw it, it was on the hospital floor, correct?
All right. May I approach?
Yes.
Take a look at that photograph, please.
Let's do it, baby.
Yes.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It's one of the photographs taken from Mr. O'Keefe's emergency department room.
Do you recognize the shirt or shirts that you earlier described as being in that photograph?
There is an orange shirt depicted on the floor to the left side, yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be marked and entered into evidence.
No objection.
Okay.
While that's being marked, may we approach very briefly?
Man, this is good times. We're having so much fun here, guys. We're having way too much fun. I have a really hard time believing the rumors that the state isn't going to call Michael Proctor. How can you not? I know they don't want to. I know they don't want to call Proctor. But you know the defense is going to. They're going to get him declared a hostile witness, and they're going to make it as painful as possible. I don't know how you don't call Proctor. You could probably get away with not calling Higgins or in like Albert and stuff, but how do you not call Proctor? I don't know. I don't know how that makes sense.
Your Honor, with permission, may I publish?
Yes.
Sergeant Buchanan, this is Exhibit 110. You just mentioned seeing an orange shirt. Do you have a laser pointer with you? If you don't, I can grab you one.
I do.
Can you point for the jurors where you were describing the orange? Just pick whichever TV you want to use. May I approach?
Yes.
Yeah, the rumor says the prosecution's not going to call any of these people.
Just tell me which TV.
I don't know.
you want to
I
get.
don't know how you
Just
don't
understand
call
if you follow.
Proctor. That
I'll
seems.
do the one to my right so the jurors can see. There is
That doesn't seem like that
something
ends well.
orange right there on the floor.
Does that appear to be on top of something darker?
I mean, it is lose-lose. Calling Proctor is lose-lose. It's just that you're losing marginally less because you can control it more. You can control it's. You're still going to hit the ground, but you can make it a little bit more gentle, and so it's not just falling completely off the cliff. So I don't know how you don't call Proctor. I don't know how you do that. That just seems like disaster fuel. I don't. Yeah. I don't know how you do that. That's someone's gonna have to explain that one to me, man.
It does appear to be on top of possibly a darker item of clothing, possibly the jeans. I'm not sure exactly from here
Okay.
what that is.
Do you believe, as you
You
sit
could
here,
object to them calling it. They can't
I'm
object to calling
asking
Proctor.
it open because I
You
don't
can't
know what the
object
answer
to
is.
it.
Do you believe, as you sit here, that that's the orange shirt and or the gray sweatshirt and or the jeans?
If we can zoom in, I could probably pick out the pattern. So from here, it looks like it's a cut fabric, indicating that it most likely is the orange shirt. The jeans, you can see the belt loop through the jeans on the left side. I would say that that is Mr. O'Keefe's clothing that we picked up and bagged.
Okay, if you could unzoom that for me. One more question. You see Mr. O'Keefe's left leg and right leg from about the little lower than mid-thigh down, correct?
Mid-thigh down, I see his legs, yes.
Okay, you see his right knee?
The interior portion of it, yes.
Okay, do you see any scrapes or marks or cuts or abrasions on that right knee?
Not from this point, no.
Thank you, we can take that down. May I approach?
Yes.
Oh, the laser point?
Yeah.
Which one? I think it's this one. They're both the same.
Yeah, if they're really not going to call Proctor, it makes me wonder what am I missing? You know, because it's like, what am I missing if they're not going to call Proctor? It's like, is it somehow they're like baiting the defense in some way that I can't see? It's like, what am I missing out of this equation? I suppose I'm not supposed to see it till it's too late, but it's like, what am I missing if they don't call Proctor? Doesn't the defense call Proctor and then they control the entire thing? Are they trying to bait the defense in some way? How does that make sense? I can't see it. I can't see it. Hmm.
I had one more question on that photo. Sorry about that. Can we display the photo one more time, Ms. Johnson? We don't need to turn the lights off. Take a look to the left. Could you zoom in on the chair? Do you see that item sitting on the chair, Sergeant?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is either mine or Michael Proctor's notepad binder.
Thank you. We can take that down. Concerning the two shirts that you earlier testified to as being sopping wet, did you bag those shirts? Well, did you bag those shirts, or did Michael Proctor bag those shirts?
We bagged them together. If my memory is not failing me, I believe he picked it up and I held the bag open. But I could be wrong. Maybe I picked it up and he held the bag open.
That's fine. The two of you together got them in a bag.
Yes.
Was it a paper bag or a plastic bag?
It was a large paper bag, the size of like a lawn leaf bag you would get for disposing your yard waste.
Okay. Is it specifically an evidence bag, or was it something that y'all came up with on the spot?
It's a bag that was provided by Crime Scene Services.
Okay. So it's an official law enforcement type bag. What, a grocery bag?
It was not a grocery bag. It was a large bag.
Okay, understood. Did both shirts go in the same bag?
All the clothing items that were in the pile went into the same bag.
Does that include the jeans and belt and boxer shorts?
Yes.
Okay. You went from Good Samaritan, straight to Dighton, correct?
Yes.
And you are the one that put the bag in your the super cab of your pickup truck?
Yes.
And then from Dighton, you went over to Canton PD, is that right?
Yes, we did.
And then from Canton PD, ultimately, before the night was out, you ended up back at the Norfolk DA's office, which is where you and Michael Proctor officed at the time, correct?
Yes.
When exactly, if you recall, did you lay out the clothing? You indicated it was sopping wet, you laid it out on a butcher paper. When was that?
It was during the evening hours once we arrived to the Canton office.
It was about 10 p.m., I'm guessing?
No, it was before that.
It was before 10?
Yes.
I have just a moment.
Yes.
Sergeant, I just want to get the record as clear as possible. Did you testify at a hearing last year, at a proceeding last year here in this courtroom, that it was about 10 o'clock at night when you finally got the clothing laid out on the butcher paper?
Based on the context on the question, I might have estimated to be around 10. I would have to take a look at the exact language being used.
That's fair. I'm not trying to hold you to anything. I just want to make sure we get it as clear as possible. May I approach?
Yes.
Highlighted portion, sir. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sergeant, does that refresh your recollection as to about the time that you ended up at the office to lay out those items on the butcher paper?
That refreshes my memory to my testimony prior.
And that was about, your prior testimony, it was about 10 p.m.?
When asked about what time the items were laid out, I indicated previously it was 10 o'clock approximately.
You didn't stay there all night with those clothes?
No, I did not.
You left the clothes with Michael Proctor, did you not?
I can't testify to leaving them, quote unquote, with Michael Proctor. We laid them out together in the drying area on the butcher paper. And then at some point, I secured from the office. I don't have a memory if he left with me or if he remained to do additional tasks in the office to, you know,
You
whatever we have to
indicated
do.
that those clothes stayed in that room starting on January 29th, 2022, so that they could dry, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Ultimately, they were bagged after they were dried, correct?
At some point they were, yes.
Who had access to that room where they were laid out on butcher paper in those intervening, those subsequent days?
Anyone that had access to the office with a proper key card authorization would have access to that
And
area.
of course, that includes you as a supervisor, correct?
It does.
It also includes Michael Proctor.
It does.
And those items were bagged on February 4th, is that right?
I don't have a specific memory, but if you can show me a document suggesting that and supporting that statement, I will definitely look at it.
Uh-huh. He's drinking smart water. I don't think it's helping. If he needs representation in a misleading trademark claim, give me a call. Deceptive trade practices, give me a call. I can represent you.
Sergeant, while we're looking for this piece of paper, you remember looking at the bag that the clothing items were in at this point, just the jeans?
Earlier today, sir?
Yes.
I do remember looking at the bag, yes.
Okay, and the bag has a label on it, obviously, that's generated when items are bagged?
It has multiple labels, yes.
Okay. Did you see the label today that it indicated it was bagged on February 4th?
I didn't pay attention to it, no.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
If you could take a look at those 3 pages briefly, that's a colloquy that may refresh your recollection. That's on the last page.
I don't know what the colloquy means. Can you?
Colloquy,
I
Well, I guess that makes sense. He didn't know what colloquial meant, and he doesn't know what colloquy means. He doesn't know what the root word is. That's the problem. It means talk. Uh, What actually is the root word for that? What is the actual formal root of that word? Let me go look it up real fast. Yeah, conversation from Latin, colloquium, conversation. Yeah, all right. So I was close enough with talk. Colloquy, from colloquium, conference, conversation. Comes from colloquium, speaking together. All right. Well, now we've learned a little bit about our Latin root origins. That was
May I
fun.
approach?
Yes.
You come to me for law.
Sir? Did reviewing that document refresh your recollection as to the date that those items were ultimately bagged and labeled?
You come to me
Yes,
for law and
based on the
etymology.
tag
Who
on
knew?
the bag. When I previously looked at it, it appears that the tag was printed on 2/4/22.
And that would be consistent with the time that the items are actually placed in the bag?
I don't know that to be true.
Because you didn't place them in the bag, Trooper Proctor did, correct? I'm sorry, former Trooper Proctor did.
I don't know who placed them in the bag.
But it wasn't you.
It was not me, no.
But the case officer, Mr. Proctor, had access to that room and was taking control over those clothing items for those 6 days that they were drying on the butcher paper, correct?
That's not necessarily correct. It could have been the evidence officers bagging the evidence once it's dried and processing it. I highly doubt Trooper Proctor had access to the beast machine to print that label.
Right. I'm not asking if he printed the label, I'm asking if he bagged the item and walked it up to the evidence locker and the label was printed up there.
Again, I don't know who bagged the items.
That would be normal protocol though, correct?
Somebody else bagging the items?
No, the case officer bagging the items. He's the one that seized it along with you. He laid them out on the butcher paper along with you. He would be the one to gather them up. I mean, the evidence officer's not going to come down there and do that without the case officer knowing, correct?
Not necessarily. The evidence officer's responsibility is to handle the evidence, so I don't know who handled the evidence that day.
How would the evidence officer know to go down there? How would he know that there were clothing items being laid out to dry on butcher paper unless the case officer told him?
They would walk by it every day and see it. That's their workstation. So
Right.
they would know that, hey, this evidence is drying. There's only 4 detectives in the office at that time working on this case. We communicate daily, so they would know that, hey, it's dried, let's bag it up.
Well, that's a lot of speculation, especially from the supervisor, literally, who just said, I have no idea who bagged it up. They weren't communicating with you, were they?
I was giving you an explanation of what could have happened.
Right. Speculation about what could have happened, right?
Well, I certainly did not bag that item.
Right. But your best estimate would be, knowing the protocols at the MSP and in your unit, would be the case officer who's controlling the items of evidence would have bagged it and submitted into the evidence locker.
I do not know who bagged it.
Wouldn't it be on the bag?
So for
Usually
6
that's how that
days-
works.
Anybody who had access to that room could have handled that clothing in any way they wanted to.
That's correct.
And that includes former Trooper Michael Proctor.
That's correct.
Do you have any kind of log
No.
to document what was
The answer's
happening,
no.
who was handling those items of clothing during that 6-day period before
The answer's no.
it was bagged into evidence? Any kind of a log?
It's no.
I don't have a document.
There you go.
Logging the clothing laying out there. It was documented in reports and processing, I believe. But
Have you ever seen a log? I'm not talking about a report after the fact. I'm talking about a log, real-time log, indicating who may have come in and handled or touched or manipulated those clothes in that 6-day span of time before that?
I have never seen a log like that, no.
The fact is, we don't have a single document establishing the chain of custody for those items between January 29th and February 4th. That's correct, isn't it?
That is absolutely not correct.
Where's the log or the document logging what happened to it?
We seized the clothing. It was in our possession. It was transferred for processing.
Sergeant, I'm asking you about a log, a written piece of paper, something that looks like this. It's got writing on it that
You know,
logs
captain's log,
the
star
item
date. Do you know what
between
star
January
date you
29th
recorded it on?
and February 4th. That doesn't exist, does it?
We did not create a log to document the documentation,
Thank
so
you.
it'd be redundant, really.
A log would be redundant? To have a written record? That's redundant? Okay. All right. Well, apparently it's redundant. Noted.
You indicated
Redundant from what? Is the next logical question, but let's press on.
on direct examination that you personally participated in 2 searches at 34 Fairview, one on February 4th, one on February 10th. Is that right?
That is not right.
What did I get wrong?
I was also there on the 3rd, 4th, and 10th.
Who did you go with on the 3rd?
That was Trooper DeChico, Michael Proctor, and I conducting the first excavation.
And about what time was that?
It was during the morning hours. I think earlier I said it was somewhere between 8:39, 9:30. I could have been half an hour later. I'm not exactly positive on the exact time we began the excavation.
And the other 2 searches were the next day, February 4th, and then February 10th.
The next time I was at Fairview Road and involved in a collection of evidence was on the 4th, when Canton PD documented the one piece and I collected, and then the 10th.
Okay.
Was anything recovered on February, let's take them in order, on February 3rd?
Yes, Mr. O'Keefe's hat, straw, I believe red and clear plastic taillight pieces. There was those are the items that were recovered amongst.
That's on the
some of
3rd. Okay, what about the 4th?
The 4th was the red taillight piece that we displayed, I believe, that Canton PD notified me of when I was already en route there.
When you say Canton PD, who was it that notified you, if you remember?
There was, at the scene, there was Chief Berkowitz, a couple of detectives.
Sergeant Lank, does that sound right?
I do not know. I can't say yes or no. I don't recall specifically.
Maybe you
It
could
was
check that
raining
log.
hard, so
Maybe it will tell you the answer.
I grabbed the item and left.
Okay. Did you write a report? I'm gonna combine these into all 3 dates together. Did you write any report? Actually, I won't do that. Let me ask them individually. Did you write any report about your search on the 3rd?
Somebody authored a report. I'm not
Did you? I'm asking about you.
I can't. There's over 100 reports. I'd have to take a look which report documents my activity that day.
Do you remember, as you sit here, authoring a report about your conduct or your activity on February 4th, the next day?
I don't have a memory of it, no.
Do you have a memory of authoring a report yourself about your conduct on February 10th, or your activity on February 10th?
I don't have a memory of it. It could have happened. I just don't have a memory.
The reality, Sergeant, is that no report was written about any of these searches until November 4th, 2023. Correct?
That could be possible, yes.
So literally the documentation of these 3 searches about which you've testified today, the documentation did not exist until, what is that math, 17, 18 months later?
That is not true. Each bag that the evidence went into was documented, the time, location, who recovered it, where it was recovered, and brief description of the items that were recovered from the scene.
And by the way, we're going to get to that in a second, the evidence bags. A report is designed to memorialize exactly what happens, when it happens, why it happened, who was there, what time it happened, things of that nature, correct?
That is one of the purposes, or some of the purposes behind the report, absolutely, yes.
And the report in this case that documented these 3 searches involving you, Trooper Proctor, I think Trooper DeChico, even Canton PD officers, there was no memorialization in a report until nearly 18 months later. Is that right?
It's possible, yeah. We write reports at different times. Yeah.
I want to ask you about this February 4th visit to the crime scene. You indicated that sometime in the morning, 8:45, 9 a.m., something like that, you responded?
On the 4th, sir?
On the 4th.
I was driving to work, so I would have to say 8:45 or so. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact timestamp, but if you know, if you have something to refresh my memory, I could tell you if that's accurate.
I'm not going to hold you to the exact time. It was in the morning on the 4th.
It was. All
right. Did you know Chief of Police Ken Berkowitz before you responded on the 4th to 34 Fairview?
Yes, I knew who he was. I had met him previously, and he was present on the 29th when the vehicle was delivered to the Sallyport.
He was actually in the Sallyport, at least at some time, when the vehicle was delivered, correct?
He was there at some point. I had a conversation with him.
Okay. Tall guy, short guy?
Chief Berkowitz was a shorter guy.
Okay. Do you know who Brian Higgins is?
I do.
What's your relationship with Brian Higgins? Or what was it? I should be more pointed to this, Sergeant. What was your relationship back in 2022, January of 2022?
Brian Higgins was a federal agent, and I crossed paths with him on a couple of investigations, strictly professional relationship, a federal agent and a state trooper.
So not a personal relationship, more of a professional relationship.
Correct.
Did you know him to have a personal relationship with Chief Berkowitz?
I did not know.
Didn't Brian Higgins actually tell you and Michael Proctor in an interview that he had a personal relationship with Chief Berkowitz? He called him one of his better friends?
Sustained, ask it technically.
Sure. During the course of your investigation, did you learn, although you may not have personal knowledge of it, did you learn that Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz had some sort of a personal relationship?
If you show me a report stating that, I would like to take a look. If it's written in a report authored by me or that I approved, I'll take it for to be fact.
As you sit here now, you don't have a memory of that conversation with Brian Higgins?
Do I have a memory of having a conversation with him
No,
and him sharing that information with me?
That's it.
I don't have a memory of him sharing that information, but if you have a report that was authored by me or Michael Proctor or any trooper in our office that says that, I will take it as gospel and testify to it.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up the time to look for it. We'll put our hands on that. But in the meantime, let me ask you a few other questions. you were contacted and told to respond to 34 Fairview because Chief Berkowitz had been driving by and saw something while he was driving by, correct?
On which day, sir?
February 4th.
I'm sorry?
February 4th.
Yes, he indicated that he was driving by and saw a piece of potential evidence.
And he was driving by in a car at speed, correct?
I would take that to be factual. I mean, if he's
Okay.
driving by, I would take it to be in the car
And
at speed.
did you question Chief Berkowitz about, by the way, about how old was Chief Berkowitz when you met him out at 34 Fairview in 2022?
How old?
How old? Estimate. Was he in his 50s, 60s, 70s?
I have no idea how old Chief Berkowitz was.
He indicated to you that he was driving by and saw a small piece of red taillight from his car. Is that right?
Objection.
He indicated to you that he was driving by and saw a red something from his car, correct?
Objection.
Did you question Chief Berkowitz after you learned this information about him driving by? Did you question Chief Berkowitz about how he could possibly see a piece of red plastic from his car?
No.
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about why he was driving by 34 Fairview in the first place?
No.
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about the fact that his department had been conflicted from the case, at least in part, because of a, as you put it, a perceived or possible perception of a conflict of interest?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question, please?
Did you question Chief Berkowitz about whether or not he was aware that there was a conflict of interest between Canton PD and this investigation?
No, I didn't question, no.
Did you think that was important at the time to talk to him about that conflict of interest?
No.
Because just days earlier, the Sergeant, the Canton Police Department had in fact recused itself from interviews because of a potential conflict of interest, right?
To prevent any perceived conflict of interest, they recused themselves from being involved in interviews.
Right. But then-
I wasn't pairing up with Chief Berkowitz to interview the taillight piece. I mean, I don't.
No, I didn't figure that you were going to interview the taillight piece. We all get the comment. I'm trying to get to a point. 3 or 4 days after, 5 days after, 6 days after, Canton PD recuses itself from the at least parts of the investigation because of a perceived conflict of interest. The brother of the homeowner, being a detective, the chief of that department drives by in a car and supposedly sees a piece of plastic. Right?
Question.
I'm sorry?
I object.
Was your understanding, at least at the time, that the whole purpose of the recusal was so there would not be a perception of a conflict of interest? To avoid that?
I didn't give him much thought of the understanding why there was a recusal. I was told that they're not going to conduct interviews with us, and me being on the mission of conducting this investigation, assisting with this investigation, collecting evidence, I just knew that I needed more manpower. And
Excuse me.
and the Canton Police, being, having recused themselves, weren't going to be available to provide that manpower to conduct interviews.
And yet, it was the chief of that very department that was standing out in front of 34 Fairview when you pulled up that morning.
With his detectives, they were at the location. They weren't standing outside. They were in their vehicles because it was raining really heavily.
Well,
Can we end at this? It's-
we can, Your Honor.
All right.
Sure.
All right, so Sergeant, we'll be bringing you back tomorrow.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Folks, that's it for today. Those same cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research. or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything that was about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Be very careful with your social media use. And again, Sergeant.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, close your notebooks. Follow me.
Can I see counsel about scheduling, please?
Let's see counsel about scheduling indeed. Let's absolutely see counseling about scheduling. I can see them not calling the Alberts. I can't see them not calling Proctor. How does that make sense? I'm not sure as the defense I'd necessarily go out of my way to call the Alberts onto the stand. But I can't imagine a scenario where I don't call Proctor as the defense. Well, I guess I can imagine a scenario. It just doesn't seem very likely. Because, like, I don't even care what his answers are. That's the thing, right? I don't care what his answers are. Which is great as a lawyer. It's like I literally don't care what your answers to the questions are. Any answer you give me is great. So, like, if it's a trap, I can't see the bait. I can't see the trap. So yeah, I don't know how that makes sense. Yeah. Say things cross will give them a better opportunity to rehabilitate. I can't see how that's possible. I can't see how cross gives them a better ability to rehabilitate. Because you get to control exactly how it happens on direct. I can't see how cross gives you a better opportunity. We will be doing Turtle Boy tonight. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, right? 7 p.m. Central. We're doing it in 4 hours. Means I get a quick nap, which is just for the best anyway. I could use the nap. Yeah, so I get a little nap. I get a 2 or 3 hour nap. That's nice. It's good for me. I can use it. Can Proctor plead the fifth? In principle, maybe. Practically, no. And even if he did, you'd still read his entire testimony from the last trial into the record. So, no. Ron's joining us. Ron, you missed a lot of fire, man.
Oh gosh, what a shame.
It's been a pile of absolute stupid, Ron. The stupid is very, very real, Ron.
I've been hearing some very harsh words from about the judge's ruling, evidentiary rulings.
With respect to the
expert?
the Maryland case.
Not paying that close attention.
Yeah, so there was this issue yesterday, and we can get into the finer points of it because I'm willing to be corrected on this point because I'm not claiming to have enough precise knowledge. But let's see if there's anything more, and I'll ask you the question. You can tell.
Oh, the big fan. We got the big fan.
We do like the spinny fan. The spinny fan is very popular here on Uncivil Law.
Huge fan.
The spinny fan is reliable. It treats everyone the same. It doesn't discriminate. It works flawlessly, day in, day out. It has no scandals. It's the greatest employee in this entire room. It's never wrong. It's never wrong.
Did they end court for today?
Yeah, it looks that way. I was just waiting to see because sometimes they have a little like they said scheduling, but sometimes they throw in a motion. So I was just waiting to see the feed actually stop before I actually killed it.
The
But this,
feed.
yeah, and then there's this rumor going around that the state isn't going to call Trooper Proctor, which I don't see how they can't do that because I think the defense almost certainly does, and they're going to make it 10 times worse. They're going to make it as painful as they possibly can because of course they are. Isn't the logical thing to do as the state is to bite the bullet and pull off the band-aid, control it, basically but you control it, so you beat the witness to death, but in a more controlled way. You take all the sting out of it for the other
mean on
side.
direct?
You
Call
build
them
some
on direct.
credit. Yeah, you build some credibility with front of the jury. It seems like the right answer.
It does, in fact. Oh, that's
Yeah.
it.
So
So I
yeah.
didn't jump on sooner.
No, that's all right. So yeah, I'll ask you this evidentiary question, and you can ask me about this. All right. So
Okay.
here's the situation. This expert witness yesterday that was testifying, I believe it's the same expert. I'm pretty sure she was testifying in a Maryland case, and the judge was making a Doe-Bear determination. The judge made the determination that the witness was not credible and therefore said, you can't testify for the reasons the judge, specified in their
Not
written opinion.
credible, or that the credibility is not a Doe-Bear.
Well, that the science was not sufficiently reliable.
Right. That the methodology was
Yeah.
what,
The science is not sufficiently reliable. Yeah.
reliable.
So they wrote an opinion, as one does. And the
as one's
so-
clerk knows.
yeah, so they wanted this same witness to testify in this case on basically the same kind of issues, or similar issues at least. And the defense wanted the ability, it seemed like they wanted to be able to ask the ultimate question. Basically, like, isn't it true that they wanted to ask this to the witness, basically some version of the question, isn't it true that some court in Maryland said you're full of shit? And the judge said, no, you can't ask that question. And I'm like, I think that's right. I mean, you can ask sort of all the underlying things, like the same reason the judge said that, it was unreliable or, not trustworthy. So you can ask all the underlying questions, but you could have done that anyway. But it's like, well, if there was a decision from a different state in which some judge, had done an analysis and said, this is the greatest, most scientifically reliable testimony I've ever heard of in my life, 10 out of 10 stars, for the same reason that you'd object to that question being asked because it's bolstering. I think if that's the right answer, then you'd have to object to it for the same reason. That's like, well, I appreciate your opinion and all, but it's just a legal opinion. It's not, I'm not sure you can ask that question.
I do think that for purposes of establishing credibility with the jury,
yeah,
you could ask, isn't it true that in June of 2024 you were barred from testifying on this very topic?
Yeah.
And that would be a permissible question.
You think so?
Not the, I would think not the subjective or the qualitative assessment by the judge. The jury has no business hearing that.
Okay, fair enough.
But you could hear, because when you put up a witness, inevitably you're going to say, well, you're an expert on this topic, right? Yeah. Is it really, you say that you're an expert on this topic, but isn't it true that 3 out of 4 times you tried to testify, courts have told you that your methodology is, not legally sufficient?
Yeah.
Under the, and I think that would be okay, but I don't think I agree with you that you could not read the judge's scathing, opinion about what a con artist the person is.
Right. Because you would think in like the alternate universe on direct, in the alternate universe, you could ask some version of the question, isn't it true that you've testified in 5 other courts relating to this subject matter and been certified as an expert by 5? You could ask that question, right?
Well, certainly if on direct you ask that question, and on cross, I'm certainly allowed to ask.
Well, I'm just asking in principle, like, would
Yes.
you object to me asking that question?
Not at all. No. In
Okay,
fact,
then
that's why
I think then that's fair. It's fair. Turnabout is fair play. As long as it's fair both ways, then I'm a happy camper.
that's what they always said about you.
I like rules being fair. You know, I just like it giveth and it taketh away.
And you see so little of it, frankly, after what we've seen in the world of lawfare in the last few years. So it is indeed a. I was in court in Providence, Rhode Island, a couple weeks ago, federal court there. A judge that has not been on the bench that long, but she's been on the bench for a while, and not the most impressive pedigree in the world. And she was listening. She was prepared. She asked the right questions. And it's hard for me not to think that regardless of how that decision is going to come down, we were taken seriously. And when you have days like this in court, it makes it all worth it.
Fair.
It makes it all worth it. But when you go into many other courts, it makes you wonder, why am I bothering?
Very fair. Yeah, the frustration can be very real, and which is more emblematic, pushing outside this one issue, because it's kind of marginal, and the defense basically got everything they wanted anyway. They couldn't ask the question about, isn't it true that you weren't allowed to testify in Maryland? But they were able to ask basically all the underlying questions about, like, isn't it true that your science is full of shit? So they kind of got basically everything they wanted, sort of, for 98%. So it wasn't that much of a deal. So, but the bigger problems in this case is the judge's treatment relating to the defense versus the prosecution as a whole.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's like, she's just not even close to even-handed. It's basically the defense can do nothing right and the prosecution can do nothing wrong. And she's an unbelievable dick to the defense every time.
Judges are usually more judges are more friendly to more prosecutors most of the time. They see them in their courtroom all the time. Many of them work in the same building or adjacent buildings. They're both paid by the same company, whether it's the state or the federal government, and a large number of judges are former prosecutors.
I think this one actually is a former defense attorney, which makes it worse.
Although a lot of former defense attorneys are also former prosecutors. So
That's
make
fair.
sure she's not both. That's my take on that.
Yeah.
What's
Bias is not a trigger I easily pull, and it's just been going on so much. I'm like, it's a little hard not to draw that conclusion.
And of course, you're not in court, so you can't eyeball the jury and get their takes.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, well, what is playing to the jury or not is a whole nother set of problems. I think the prosecution has been, and people obviously disagree with me strongly on this point, but I think the prosecution, given their limitations, has so far run a strategically perfect game. I think that their stage presence leaves something to be desired, is vocal variety, but I really like the structure of his opening. I thought he laid out a very good story arc that was very good with little pieces of interlaced evidence. And
is she guilty?
So far, I don't think so. No, I think the case is a total disaster. I don't think they should be bringing it at all.
This is the thing that I just can't understand is we've seen this time and time again, including in cases that we've worked on to get, where I've been on panels streaming. When a prosecutor knows he's or she's full of shit, that they're trying to put a person who has committed no crime in prison. Yeah. How do you deal with that? How do you go to sleep at night? I'm not saying it's okay to do it in civil litigation, which is my bag, but you can drink the Kool-Aid in civil litigation and really believe the justness of your of your client's position, even
Yeah.
when you might know that you might have problems, but you might, that I can see. Not that there aren't people who I definitely encounter who I wonder how the hell they sleep at night in civil litigation, but in criminal, it's people's lives.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I mean, and that's part of the reason I never. I think I would have done very well as a criminal defense lawyer, but I might be too soft.
I mean, the trying to find like the easiest way to resolve the case for me is that the evidence that she hit him just isn't there, because they need the state's theory of the case is that this 7,000-pound SUV was going 25 miles an hour backwards and hit this guy. It had to hit him hard enough to cause him to project 30 feet throughout the air and cause him to land on the lawn so hard that it rendered him, incapacitated, but simultaneously not cause any torn ligaments, broken bones, or even bruising. And I'm like, how can both those things be true at the same time? That's a lot.
That's to you the core problem with the case.
It is the biggest problem with the case. It's like looking for water, finding the lowest level, right? Finding the easiest way to resolve the case. Like a good judge. How can I be lazy and resolve this case as simple as possible? What is the simplest way for me to resolve this case? That's the simplest way for me to resolve it. And so if they don't have actus reus, they obviously don't have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and I get to go home. End of case.
End of case. You as the judge get to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And judges do like that.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Well,
yeah, and it's just then there's the investigation problems, the evidentiary problems are legendary with the lab and how they collected data and lack of evidence logs, collection techniques.
It seems to be a real
lack of protocol
too, right? I mean, in other words, a real club of cops and prosecutors and
and everyone seems to be related to everybody. Does the family tree doesn't fork over here apparently?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's my evidentiary ruling on that question.
Fair enough. I accept your judgment, and I will stand overruled on my.
Okay. Well, thanks for the invitation to weigh in. And I wish I would have been here. I've been running around like crazy today, but maybe I'll catch a little bit of your trial stream in the days.
Yeah, if you want to drop by, you're always welcome. We stream every day, and if Proctor winds up taking the stand, it's going to be one hell of a shit show.
Those are the best shows, except for the people whose lives are affected by them.
Yeah, no joke, right?
All right, catch you later.
Catch you later. Thanks, Ron. Bye-bye. That was Ron Coleman. Appreciate him dropping by a little bit there at the end. That was very nice of him. So yeah, it's like, I think Ron's view makes sense here on the evidentiary issue. Like, clean up my shirt a little bit. He makes sense. So we will be on in 3.5 hours with Aidan Kearney, otherwise known as Turtle Boy. And we will ask him some questions. I'm going to try to get a nap because I need one desperately. And then we will stream later and it'll be fun. So I will see you later today. I've been Uncivil Law. Hope you have a great one. Till later. Bye-bye.